Snow fell in lazy spirals outside the rusted trailer on the edge of town. The kind of snow that silenced everything, even the ghosts that haunted the man inside. Hank Iron Mallory sat at a small kitchen table covered with a faded checkered cloth, his leather vest draped with the red and white patch that read Hell's Angels. The lights from a single Christmas tree blinked faintly in the corner. Half the bulbs burned out. His tattooed hands rested on the table, one clutching a fork, the other a beer bottle gone warm. Around him the air felt heavy with years of regret, the kind that made even Christmas lights look dim. If you believe in kindness, in second chances that find us when we least deserve them, then take a moment. Like, comment, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes. Let's keep stories like this alive because sometimes hope knocks when you least expect it. Outside, wind howled through the pine trees. Hank glanced at the clock. 6:47 p.m. Another Christmas Eve spent alone. For 12 straight years, he had followed the same ritual. Cook a plate of food for no one, pour a beer for no one, and wait for midnight to pass so the ache in his chest could rest again. Once there had been laughter in this house, a wife who made gingerbread, a little boy who wore pajamas with stars on them. But one cold night years ago, the road had taken them both, and since then, Hank had stopped riding. The bike still sat in the shed, covered in dust, like a chapter he refused to read again. The smell of fried onions lingered in the kitchen, mixing with the faint scent of engine oil that always clung to him. On the radio, a soft carol played, Silent Night, and Hank felt his throat tighten. He turned the volume down, muttering to himself that bikers didn't cry, but his eyes stayed fixed on the empty plate across from him. The chair opposite him had never been moved in 12 years. Then came the sound, a soft, hesitant knock. At first he thought it was the wind. Then again, knock, knock, sharper, smaller, like someone afraid but desperate. He froze. Nobody ever came here. The club brothers all spent the holidays at the bar, not at his forgotten corner of the world. He stood bone stiff and opened the door. There she was, a young woman, maybe late 20s, her hair wet from snow, her breath trembling in the cold. Beside her, a little girl in a purple coat hugged a small wrapped box, her cheeks red from the wind. The mother's eyes carried both exhaustion and quiet strength, the look of someone who had been through storms but still chose kindness. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice nearly lost in the wind. "Our car broke down, and your house was the only one with lights on." For a moment, Hank just stared, the words caught somewhere between suspicion and surprise. Then, without thinking, he stepped aside and gestured them in. The woman hesitated but smiled faintly and guided the little girl inside. The room filled instantly with the sound of small boots tapping on the wooden floor. The girl's eyes went wide at the Christmas tree, broken bulbs and all. She whispered something to her mother, something about how pretty it looked. And that simple word pretty cracked something open in Hank's chest. He handed them both towels, awkward and rough, like a man who'd forgotten what kindness felt like. The woman thanked him, rubbing her daughter's hair dry. She introduced herself as Maya and her daughter as Lily. They'd been driving to her sister's place 3 towns over when their car stalled near the bridge. No phone signal, no help, just the cold and a prayer that someone might still open their door on Christmas Eve. As she spoke, Hank noticed her hands trembling from the cold. He poured her a cup of coffee, then hesitated before setting a glass of milk before Lily. The girl smiled, a small, toothy grin that reminded him of a little boy from long ago. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was soft, filled with the faint hum of the heater and the ticking of an old clock. Maya looked around the small room, noticing the motorcycle pictures, the old club patches, the one photo tucked behind the tree. A man, a woman, and a young boy. She didn't ask, but her eyes said she understood. Hours passed like minutes. They ate together. Hank had never seen anyone make his food disappear that fast. And he found himself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in years. It startled him. The sound felt strange, but warm. Then as Lily finished her plate, she walked toward the small, uneven Christmas tree. Carefully, she took the box she had been holding and placed it underneath the tree. "For you," she said shyly, looking up at him. "Mom says everyone deserves a present." Hank blinked. his rough voice barely holding steady. You didn't have to. It's okay, Lily said, her eyes bright. It's just cookies. But their happy cookies that night, something changed. They stayed because the storm grew worse, snow piling high outside. Maya and Lily slept on the couch wrapped in spare blankets while Hank sat by the window, watching the snow bury his bike shed. He thought about all the Christmases he'd spent pushing people away, thinking he didn't deserve love anymore. But tonight, in the quiet hum of the heater, in the soft breathing of a sleeping child, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Morning came slow, with golden light spilling through the curtains. Lily woke first, her giggle echoing through the small home as she spotted the old tree glowing with morning sunlight. Hank had added a few candy bars from his kitchen drawer to the branches, the only decorations he had left, and when Lily saw them, she gasped like it was magic. Maya smiled, tears in her eyes. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, Hank muttered, scratching his beard. Guess I did. They shared breakfast, pancakes that came out too thick, coffee too strong, but the air was filled with warmth. When it was time to go, Maya thanked him for his kindness. Hank shook his head. No, he said quietly. Thank you. You reminded me what Christmas feels like. As they stepped outside, the sun broke through the clouds, scattering diamonds of light across the snow. Hank watched them walk toward the road, the little girl turning once to wave. He raised his hand slowly, feeling something inside him loosen. The grief, the guilt, the years of silence melting like snow. But just as he turned to go back inside, he noticed the small box still under the tree. She'd left it behind. He opened it. Inside were sugar cookies shaped like stars, and a small handwritten note in a child's handwriting. Merry Christmas, Mr. Angel. You're not alone anymore. He sat down, staring at the note as the world around him blurred. For the first time in 12 years, tears fell freely. He laughed through them, shaking his head at the absurd beauty of it all. The tree lights blinked softly, reflecting in his wet eyes, and outside the world sparkled white and new. If this story touched your heart, take a moment. Like, share, and subscribe to Everyday Heroes. Help us remind the world that kindness still lives in the most unexpected places. Days passed, and something strange began to happen. Every morning, Hank found small drawings slipped under his door. Snowmen, bikes, stars, always signed Lily. A week later, Maya returned to thank him properly, bringing a pie she'd baked with her sister. Hank invited them in, awkward but smiling, and soon it became tradition. Every Sunday they came for dinner. Every Christmas they came home. The old biker who once spent Christmas alone now found himself hanging ornaments with a little girl who called him Grandpa Hank. The man who thought his story was over learned that sometimes the road leads you not to endings, but to second beginnings. So before you go, share in the comments what moment in this story touched your heart the most. Your words inspire others to believe in kindness. And as the final lights flicker on the tree and the music fades, let this truth linger. Even the roughest souls can carry the softest hearts. Sometimes all it takes is a knock at the door and the courage to open it.